Because see, this identification is on an important figure in U.S. history and also of the Civil War. Um, so this is on the great Clara Barton and her story. Okay, it's here a drawing of Clara Barton. Clara Barton was born in 1821 and died in 1912. She was born in Oxford, Massachusetts. She grew up in Massachusetts, and she became interested in medicine as a child after helping her brother, who had been in an accident. But she didn't immediately go into medicine. Um, the first thing she did was actually start a small free school in her town. You can see that very small school. It was a free school. In fact, it became a public school in this town, and that was her interest. But her real interest lay in medicine. Um, but initially, she was teaching. Uh, after her short career in teaching, she got a job in the United States Patent Office, which was kind of a large office, and she worked in the patent office for a while. But I think you could say that was not her goal in life. And so she was very interested in a lot of things, but medicine was her main interest. But when the Civil War came along, she decided to become involved in helping the soldiers, the injured soldiers. So here's one drawing of the type of wagons of the era of the Civil War. And she, uh, when she knew that the war had broken out, she didn't really look for a job or anything. She didn't look for a formal position. There really was no formal position open. Um, and in the war for her at this time, you wouldn't have had, you probably would have had soldier male doctors down at the front. Um, and she decided not to like apply for a position. She just took her wagon, loaded it up with medical goods, and really just started heading south towards the border where the between the north and south was fighting. And her father was very very supportive of this, but and he thought it was a great idea. But she didn't have any government support, and she really just did this on her own. And she went down and went up to the battlefront and met with some of the northern leaders. She talked to a general. He said, well, and she encountered some resistance down there because she had no official government permission to be a major battlefront. But many down there knew the desperate need for help because there was so many wounded uh, at the battlefront. So they just began to ignore what she was doing and allowed her to. She had a wagon full of bandages, and the soldiers loved her, and the leaders, the military leaders down there, loved her too. So eventually, word quickly got back to the generals and to Lincoln, and the Surgeon General gave her permission to be there in a letter that was written up. And so she was formally then given permission, but she really did push her way into it. And she was right there in the middle of the fighting. One of her quotes here, she says, I may be compelled to face danger, but never fear it. And while our soldiers can stand and fight, I can stand and feed and nurse them. So she did. She tended to injured soldiers. And this is a picture of by a building, but she was right where all the tents were and where a lot of the shooting was going on between the two sides. And actually, she was grazed by a bullet. Um, a hole was put into her dress um, and, by a bullet, and she had started to become famous. The newspapers and word of mouth started to give her the nickname Angel of the Battlefield. There she is with a horse. Obviously, horses were very important during the Civil War and pulling wagons and were very much a part of the effort. And she was a good rider. So the war then she stayed as a nurse, the leading nurse, the angel of the battlefield, and many of the army doctors and stuff talked to her, and she just became quite legendary through the Civil War. There's another wagon, and really the idea of the Red Cross started to come after the war was over, and she became a very important figure in the Red Cross. Uh, After the war was over, she spent a couple years running an office looking for missing soldiers because you can imagine there was a very big lack of paperwork and many soldiers were missing and no one was sure some of them were dead or maybe had survived and just, there were no computers or no information. So she started an office to where families could look for their soldiers. And she was always known even to help injured Southern soldiers who had been taken prisoner too. But after the war, she started this office for missing soldiers, and she visited Europe for a while, the European and International Red Cross, and she then decided that she wanted to start an American Red Cross specifically for the United States. So she began um, the U.S. Red Cross, and she obviously this is now peacetime, and the Red Cross would help find missing people. And in this picture, the Red Cross was at the scene of a hurricane in South Carolina, and this is a highly African American area where the hurricane hit. And she led the Red Cross with the relief efforts of that hurricane in South Carolina. So the Red Cross then became about missing people, not just missing soldiers, and also hurricanes and natural catastrophes, like many of you know now what the Red Cross is today. But she was the founder of the American Red Cross. So, yes, so Clara Barton was the founder of the American Red Cross. And its efforts for missing people, for victims of hurricanes, fires, forest fires, tornadoes, um, and its goal then was to help with natural catastrophes. And she led these efforts as the head of the American Red Cross. Another picture of Clara Barton. Okay. A tombstone for four unknown U.S. soldiers, which Clara Barton was always trying to find out what happened to soldiers and find information for their families. And the Red Cross became famous in the 1900s, also in World War II, trying to help people who were missing and lost even in World War II. And it's obviously still, as you know, very important humanitarian agency. Here, this book, The Red Cross, was written by Clara Barton. Now here Clara Barton is much older now in this picture. So, but this would be at the time of her running the Red Cross and then her other humanitarian efforts. So here we see a postage stamp with Clara Barton and the Red Cross on the stamp. There's a number of monuments to Clara Barton. Here is one of the monuments. We see her tombstone, Clara Barton, Angel of the Battlefield. And another monument to Clara Barton. So Clara Barton lived to be the age of 90, and a very famous figure in American history of the Civil War era and past that, Clara Barton.